Hello students, good morning. Today we are going to discuss our doubt class 2 for this exam. As the exam is nearing, we will be having some more regular doubt classes. You can send your all doubts on our telegram group. So let us start our doubt class 2. As you all know, we have already had one doubt class last week. So this will be our second doubt class and we will be covering important topics here. Now, the first question that we got as a doubt was under class 9 of motor tariff for commercial vehicles, C2 means four wheeler or more, for PCV exceeding 6 and three wheeler exceeding 17, but in audio it has been spelled as four wheeler or more for PCV not exceeding 6. Let me clarify you the same that in case of commercial vehicles there are seven categories. First is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A is for commercial goods carrying vehicles, B is for standalone trailers, C is for passenger carrying vehicles, D is for miscellaneous vehicles, E, F, G are for road transit policies for new vehicles and showrooms. Now the question have come from category C. C category have four categories: C1, C2, C3 and C4. What is the purpose for C1? C1 is for four-wheeler with carrying capacity less than 6. If there is a four-wheeler or a six-wheelers, normally there are only four-wheelers with sitting capacity less than 6. So then next comes C2. C2 will cover four-wheeler more than 6 and three-wheeler more than 17. Okay, you got it? Sorry, here we just missed it. This is for both. C1 is for both three-wheeler and four-wheeler, but less than 6. Now, C2 it is four-wheeler more than 6, three-wheeler more than 17. These are under the category number C2. Now comes category C3. Now you have seen that four-wheeler less than 6 is covered, four-wheeler more than 6 is also covered. Three-wheeler less than 6 is covered, three-wheeler more than 17 is covered. So here there will be a sitting capacity of three-wheeler more than 6 but less than 17. This will come under the category C3. So C3 will only have three-wheeler whereas C1, C2 will have four-wheelers and three-wheelers both. Now next comes C4. Now all have been here, then what's remaining here? There are passenger carrying two-wheelers. The passenger carrying two-wheelers are under C4. The commercial two-wheelers, as you all are using Ola, Rapido, Uber, the two-wheelers that are being used there are insured under C4 if they are registered under taxi. I hope the thing is clear to everyone. So let us move on to next one. The next question comes is in reinsurance, what is the time limit for reinsurer to confirm the account statement submitted by CD insurer? Is it within a month of receipt or 15 days? Before replying, please go through chapter 8 and 9 of the book. Okay, someone have given us a lot of details, so let us clarify the same. अब यहाँ पे हुआ क्या है that in the book somewhere it is mentioned that the insurer need to confirm the accounts within 15 days. In the next it is mentioned that it is expected to confirm the accounts within 13 days. So yes, obviously it is confusing. How can we resolve it? There is no fixed limit. It is only on mutual agreement. Now, the insurer and reinsurer will mutually agree as in how many days we need to submit the accounts and in how many days the reinsurer need to confirm that okay the accounts are correct and we accept the same. The deadline for these are being decided individually by every insurer and reinsurer. There are no such guidelines stipulated for the same, but there are guidelines for one thing. What is the thing for which we need the guidelines? The thing is insurer need to submit the accounts of reinsurance to IRDAI. Sorry, not the accounts, submit the plan. As every insurer makes a plan that how much he is going to reinsure and with whom he is going to reinsure. So he need to give the complete details of the same 45 days before the start of financial year to the IRDA. That yes, we are planning to go with this one, this two, this three reinsurer. They need to submit this plan 45 days before the commencement of financial year. Suppose the financial year commences on 1st April, they need to submit it by mota 15th Feb. Now, okay, the new financial year have started on 1st April. Thereafter, before 30th April, that is within 30 days, they need to submit the documents regarding the insurance program they have finalized. तो होगा क्या कि यदि आपको री इंश्योरेंस जो आपका प्लान है उसके बारे में आपको IRDA को 45 दिन पहले बताना पड़ेगा कि हाँ सर, हम इस कंपनी के साथ, ए कंपनी के साथ, बी कंपनी के साथ, डी कंपनी के साथ हम री इंश्योरेंस कर रहे हैं, कौन सी लाइन का करेंगे, कितना परसेंटेज करेंगे, ये उन्हें IRDA को 45 दिन पहले बताना होता है। उसके बाद में क्या होता है, जैसे नया फाइनेंशियल ईयर आता है उसके बाद 30 डेज के अंदर अंदर उन्हें यहाँ पे वापस जाना पड़ेगा, किसके पास, IRDA के पास, कितने दिन में, 30 days में, and they have to submit the documents again. The next question here is appointing authority for promotion to scale. For scale 6 and 7 are CMD, for scale 4 and 5 it is GMP, and for scale 1 to 3 are DGMP. Is it correct? Actually, in our personal manual there is a list given where for every scale there is a appointing authority, disciplinary authority, affiliate authority and memorial authority. All are being mentioned in a single sheet. We have shared the screenshot of the same on our Telegram group also, and in our PPT there is a doubt class 5-minute PPT in HR where we have also covered the same, but as we are discussing here, let us confirm it. For scale 6 and 7, CMD is the appointing authority. For scale 4 and 5, the appointing authority is a officer in scale 7. That is a scale 7 officer, that means he is a GM. But in the manual, it is never mentioned that the appointing authority should be GM, even though GMPE normally do the appointing procedures. But a scale 7 officer is there. So if you only get answer as GMP, you should tick that. For scale 1 to 3, the officer should be at least in scale 6 as per the one mentioned in the manual. So scale 6 is a DGMP. So these are correct. But if you are getting a question with only scales, then for 6 and 7 it is the CMD. For 4 and 5 it will be a scale 7 officer, and for 1 to 3 it will be a scale 6 officer. Now let us move on to question next. Question number 4. May please confirm, in case of fire floater policy, sum insured is maximum value at any time in any location or the whole year book value. Kindly clarify the selection of sum insured in floater policy. Actually, you have asked the question about the declaration policy. Now for the declaration policy, the book value and is all these matters. What relates to the floater policy? Suppose you are having this location A, then comes this location B, then comes this location C. All these 2-3 locations are there. Suppose you are having a sum of 10 lakhs here, you are having a sum of 20 lakhs here, you are having a sum of 20 lakhs here. So instead of taking different policies, you are willing to take a policy of 50 lakhs all alone. So this is nothing the maximum value at any time or the whole year book value. We should say that it is the maximum value at any time. Suppose यहाँ पे हमारा 10 लाख, 20 लाख and 20 लाख टोटल 50 लाख था. Someday this may go up to 15 lakh, this may decrease to 10 lakh and it may go to 40 lakh. At that time, the sum insured will be 40 plus 50 plus 15, that is 65 lakhs. So what we are checking here, the sum insured should be maximum value. That is the total of 3 and maximum value. What is the benefit of taking this floater policy? Here you can vary the sum insured, because यहाँ पे आपको यदि आप अलग अलग लेते हैं, you need to decide that I need to take a 10 lakh policy, but someday the sum insured have gone to 15 lakhs. Here you were taking 20 lakhs policies, but you will be at loss when the sum insured is 10 lakhs. Here you were taking 20 lakhs, but someday it may go to 40 lakhs, or someday it may also come down to 10 lakhs. Though the sum insured is fluctuating between all these different units, and for customer it is quite difficult that he will be taking or increasing decreasing the sum insured at every location. So to cover up for the same, he is taking a floater policy. So floater policy में क्या होगा, जो total है, total of all locations will be sum insured. Now the other policy that I guess your question was regarding was declaration policy. In case of declaration policy, what happens that you take a fixed sum insured. Suppose we are going at a sum insured of 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs sum insured you have decided. Now every month you need to declare that what was the sum insured for the previous month. In that case you can take highest of any day, or you can take the average of complete month. आपको फरवरी का जो डिक्लेरेशन है वो कब तक सबमिट करना पड़ेगा, अप टू 31 मार्च. अब यहाँ पे 10 लाख है, सपोज आपका यहाँ पे स्टॉक ओनली उस महीने में 8 लाख का ही था, आपको कितनी सेविंग हो गई, 2 lakhs की. उसके बाद में नेक्स्ट मंथ में सपोज आपका 9 लाख है, आपको कितनी सेविंग हो गई, 1 लाख की. देन इट कम्स 10 लाख, देन यू विल बी हैविंग द sufficient sum insured. The same goes on for the complete year, and at the year end what will happen that you will be checking the sum insured. Suppose the sum insured was 10 lakh, so if the total sum insured is this month wise total comes only to 108, then what we will be taking, we will be dividing it by 12 to find the average, that is 108, it will be 9 times 9 lakhs. So you have only utilized 9 upon 10, that is 90% sum insured. You will be eligible to get back 10% sum insured. Now there is also condition regarding this refund. In case of declaration policy, we are allowed a refund of maximum 50%. But if the declaration policy becomes a floater declaration policy, in that case we are only allowed a maximum refund of 20%. These are under the SFSP policies. Let us move on to the next question. GR9, for consolidated bills, depreciation is given as 25%, paint material and paint charges as 75% of the bill amount. What is consolidated bill? Please explain. Many times when you go to the workshop, they will just only mention painting, and they will put the amount of here rupees 4000. You do not know that how much is for the paint material and how much is the labor of painting here. In that case what will happen, how will the insurance company judge? If it is a nil day policy, then no issue, because there is no depreciation on this paint and there will be no depreciation upon the paint material. But if the policy is for an old vehicle and there is no nil day coverage, you need to deduct depreciation. No painting. Labor have 0% deduction. Paint material is having a deduction of 50%. Then how will you resolve it? This amount is being divided in the ratio of 25-75. 25 is for the paint material, whereas 75 is for the labor. Now let us understand this with this example only. Here our bill was for rupees 4000. 25% is our paint material, 25% means 1000, whereas labor is 75%, that is 3000. Okay, you clear? Now it is a policy where we need to deduct depreciation. For paint material, depreciation will be 50%. So payable amount will be only this 1000 into 50 by 100, that is 500. Here this is our labor depreciation is 0%, 100% is paid. So this complete amount of 3000 is paid. So here the total amount paid is 3500. Many times numericals regarding the same are asked a lot. So the amount is 3500 is being paid here. I hope the thing is clear to everyone that in case of a consolidated bill is here. In some cases you may find that pent and then painting labor. In that case you do not need this 2575 because this paint is automatically the material and painting labor is the cost. So here if it is bifurcated, then we only need to apply the depreciation on this paint material. On this painting labor no depreciation will be applied. But if it is given as a consolidated bill without the segregation for paint and paint labor, in that case this will be 25% and this will be 75% of the total bill amount. I hope it is clear. Now let us move on to next question. Next question is about reinsurance. Net risk sum insured is 5 lakhs, line is 2 lakhs. If the question is mentioning here line means it is a surplus treaty. Okay, so line is 2 lakhs. That means retention is 2 lakhs rupees. How much is the total sum insured? Total was 5 lakhs. So out of this 5 lakh, 2 lakh was being retained. How much will be reinsured? Reinsured will be 3 lakh. So if we go by percentage, this is 40%. 2 by 5 is equal to into 100 40%, and this is 3 by 5 into 100 60%. So 60% हमने यहाँ पे reinsurer को दे दिया है, जबकि 40% is being retained. Now there comes a loss of 1.5 lakhs. A loss happens for rupees 1.5 lakhs. How much will be paid by the reinsured? Reinsured ने जितना retain किया, he will pay the same. That is, if he is retaining 40% of the risk, then he will only be paying 40% of the claim into 40 by 100. That is 60,000. Now there are some my dear friends who are having this issue of 1,50,000. As how 1,50,000 is not paid? As because 1.5 lakhs is within this 2 lakh limit. Yes, I agree, my dear brothers. It is within a 2 lakh limit, but the surplus treaty goes by percentage. Line only determines the limit of retention. And in case of proportional treaty, the ratio in which the risk is retained, the claim is also paid in the same ratio. Here you can check that the risk was being retained in the case of this 40% was being retained and the 60% was being ceded. So the claim will also be paid in the same ratio. 40% paid by the person who retained, that is the reinsured, whereas 60% is 90,000. 90,000 will be paid by the reinsurer. I hope you are clear with this. Okay, let us move on to next question. Next question is regarding escalation in fire policy, whether it is 10% or 25%. Obviously, you are going to get confused. Earlier, there was a SFSP policy where you would have read this 10%, you would have also read this 25%. The 10% scenario is only with the long-term dwelling policy. In fire, we issue long-term dwelling policy. Earlier in SFSP, there was no limit on the policy period. We could have issued 20-year policy, and if we have selected the method A, in that case there was an automatic escalation of 10% every year. Suppose you have taken a 10 lakh policy, next year it will automatically become 11 lakh if you have gone with the method A. This is regarding the escalation under long-term dwelling policies. Only the 10% concept is only there. Now the next thing that comes is 25%. The 25% escalation is as the same which can be opted by a customer by paying extra premium. Suppose you are having this fire policy for this building for rupees 20 lakhs. If you have opted a escalation of 25%, then the building value will become 25 lakh at the end of the year, that is on the 365th day it will become 25%. So maximum escalation under SFSP policy is 25%. Now what next? The escalation in some department is 50%. In fire and engineering section they are unique. They are CAR and EAR. Only these two policy have 50% escalation. Otherwise everything have this 25% escalation limit. Now for the fire scenario, with time things change, and from 1st April 21 there were three new policies: गृह रक्षा, भारत लघु उद्यम सुरक्षा, and भारत सूक्ष्म उद्यम सुरक्षा. Now the गृह रक्षा have a long term provision where there is a automatic escalation of 10% every year. In the BLU and BSU there is nothing mentioned about escalation, but there is a waiver thing, that is 15% under insurance is waived. So we can practically say it as a 15% escalation. Suppose you have taken a policy of sorry, it is I should mention you have taken a policy of 85,000 and your actual sum insured was rupees 1 lakh. In that case you will be exempted from under insurance and no under insurance will be charged to you. I hope this is clear. Escalation under SFSP policy was 25%. In case of these new products, Grah Raksha have an automatic escalation of 10% for long-term policy. In case of BLU, BSU, there is a waiver of under insurance of 15%. That means a 15% escalation is there, but directly you will not be asked escalation questions on the new products, because in BLU and BSU there is no mention about escalation. Now, next question comes is annual turnover versus standard turnover difference. Where have you heard these words? When the scenario of turnover comes, we in insurance we only deal with turnover in LOP policies. That is FLOP, MLOP, all these policies. There you seen these two words, annual turnover and standard turnover. Annual turnover is that suppose the accident happened on this day, 1st March 2022. Annual turnover is for this preceding 12 months. That is from 1st March 2021 to here this 18 Feb 2022. This 12-month turnover is known as annual turnover. Now second comes standard turnover. Suppose the loss happened on 1st March and the factory was recoverable on 1st June 2022. Now the turnover for the same period, that is 1st March 2021 to 1 June 2021. The turnover for this period during the past year was known as standard turnover. I hope the difference is clear. That is annual turnover is the turnover during the previous 12 months immediately before the day of loss, whereas the standard turnover is the turnover of the loss period during the last financial year. सपोज आपका भी लॉस पीरियड 3 महीने का था, उन सेम 3 महीने का लास्ट ईयर का टर्नओवर देखा जाएगा कि उस टाइम पे क्या टर्नओवर था. व्हाट इज द यूज ऑफ दिस एनुअल टर्नओवर एंड स्टैंडर्ड टर्नओवर? The annual turnover is used to check the adequacy of sum insured, as the sum insured is sufficient or not, whereas this standard turnover is checked to check the reduction in turnover. I hope the things are clear by now. And we again request you to put all your doubts in our Telegram group. We will be happy to clear your doubts, because by discussing the doubts in the group, people like you or your friends will also be getting benefit from the discussion who are shy to ask the questions. So we again insist you to ask all your doubts in our Telegram group. We will be there to help you. Thanks a lot for watching the video.